Hey guys, it's Luke Yan, and I am back from school for spring break. I just got back a couple of days ago, and I'm here for the whole week, and I have been waiting to read this particular book because I was very eager to do a reading vlog for it because this is the finale of a series that I have grown to love over the last year and change, and you probably guessed it from the thumbnail and or the title, but today I will be starting a reading vlog for Beasts of War by Ayana Gray, the third and final book in the Beasts of Prey series. So, as you can tell from the bookmark, I actually have already started reading, and this bookmark isn't even in the right place. So I'm actually on page 165 on chapter 12, which is actually titled Beasts of War, so little callback to the title, but I think I'm close to like 40% of the way through the book, and this is the first time that I've had to film this, so I feel like this is going to be less of a reading vlog and more of like a review type of thing, because I don't think I'm going to be like updating as often as I would for like a regular reading vlog. I don't know what I'm saying. But if you are unaware, I have loved this series so much. I read Beasts of Prey last January and I fell in love with it. Like, it was a big surprise for me because I thought I was going to like it, but I didn't think I was going to like adore it as much as I did. And then I read Beasts of Ruin, the sequel, this January, and I just, again, was so blown away by the book. And this just came out like 2 months ago. And I've been waiting to read it until I was home because I wanted to document my experience reading the finale to what could become one of my all-time favorite series. I feel like it's rare for me to like have a new all-time favorite series, but I think I have been like pretty lucky in the last like year or so with finding new series to just, champion. So I am very excited to be reading this final chapter, but I thought I would just kind of discuss like what's happening so far in the book, my feelings, all that fun stuff. So this video will definitely have spoilers in it. I'll be talking about the whole book in detail, so if you have not read this series, I recommend you go read it because it's amazing, and then come back when you have caught up. So, Chapter 12 of Beasts of War. So far, I'm enjoying the book. I don't think I'm loving it as much as the first two books in the series. Those first two books, especially Beasts of Ruin, were kind of just like, as soon as I started reading them, I was in love, and I loved everything about it. I loved the characters, I loved the writing, loved the world, loved the plot. This book is a little bit different than those other two books. There's still like a quest type of like journey at its core, which is what I love. Like, I love books with a sort of strong adventure plotline in the center, and this is definitely that. So but I do think that the beginning was a little bit more slow than usual, and there was just something a little, I don't know, maybe it's me, but I wasn't loving the writing as much in the beginning. I mean, I still think this is definitely going to get at least a 4 stars, especially since, like, once I got to part 2, that's when things definitely started to pick up, and the last 2 chapters, which were the first 2 chapters of part 2, were just, like, what I loved from this series. So I think part 1 was a little bit rocky. I wasn't even loving, like, the writing as much. It felt, like, a little bit watered down. However, I feel like part 2 is definitely bringing things back to what I love about this series. So, essentially, where we are at in the story, we kind of start right where we left off with Beasts of Ruin. We do have another POV at the start of this book, and it's like from the past, and it's from a character named Akande, and there's this whole thing where he's in like a fighting ring and he accidentally like kills someone. It's kind of confusing, but the subsequent chapters that we get from his first person perspective are in the years before, so I think we're kind of leading up to it. It's definitely going to have some connection to what's happening in the main storyline, because every book in the series has had like those first person interstitial chapters from like different characters and during different timelines. So I'm definitely interested to see what happens there, but with Kofi and Ekon, we just kind of met up with them in the aftermath of Beasts of Ruin. Kofi is having these like strange dreams with like Feidu, who's the god of death who had imprisoned her, at his manor in book 2, and Ekon is kind of just chilling and figuring out like what to do with life, and they basically end up figuring out that if they can find the other gods and goddesses, then they will be able to do something with Kofi's magic so that it is taken away so that Feiju can't use her during the binding, which is a couple of weeks away. It's a little bit convoluted, but in a way that's like not confusing. Just like a very tangled web of like plot, but it's something that I still like am enjoying. And so they go on this ship and they're trying to find things, and they basically end up figuring out that they have to go to this House of Wise Waters, and that's where we end part 1, and then part 2, the first 2 chapters that I read were them in the house, and that is where this book really started to pick up for me. Like, it was stuff that I loved from the first 2 books. Like, I was loving the writing a lot more than I was in part 1. The characters were really coming into their own again, and they felt like themselves, and just the plot was really interesting, like all the mythology and the lore, and I just loved the house and the way it was written, and I really do love Ayana Gray's descriptions. I think they're very vivid and imaginative and transportive, so I was definitely feeling that in this section. And then where I just left off, they have kind of jumped into this pool with this mermaid to, I guess, go to the goddess's realm. I forget what her name is. Amokaya. She's the goddess of seas, rivers, lakes, and streams. And so that's the first one that we have to do. And then I think, obviously they're not going to get Feiju because they're never going to convince him to help them. But they do have Badwa, I think, and she is going to help convince her brother, who's like far away. So basically, I think they only have to find 3 gods and or goddesses. So we're on our way to recruiting the first one, and I'm excited to see where that takes us. But it is currently about 11:30, so I'm gonna make my bed and get dressed and ready for the day. I'm gonna try to read a good portion of the book right now before I go hang out with my friends. We're gonna have like a fun day at the mall and get food and stuff, so that'll be exciting. But I'm definitely gonna try to finish the book either today or tomorrow. I don't think it's gonna be that difficult. I'm gonna try to read like a big chunk of it right now. So yeah, I will see you guys very soon with another update to tell you how I'm feeling about the book. Okay, it's been about half an hour. I did make my bed, so that's a good development. I haven't changed yet. I'm about to, but I did want to film this clip because I did get to part 3 in Beasts of War. I just don't feel like putting the dust jacket on the book and like holding it up, so we're just gonna deal with this. So I wanted to update because like some interesting stuff in the book did happen, and I didn't want to wait until like later because I might have forgotten. So basically where I left off, they did end up in Amakoya's realm. They asked her for help. They were like having some difficulty in the beginning, but then she ended up agreeing to help after Sophia like kind of convinced her. But she did say that she had one stipulation, and that was that they had to find her bracelet, which went missing like years ago. And at first I was kind of like, I don't really love this detour that we have to go on. It feels like something that was just supposed to like string the plot along and like make the book longer. But I was like, okay, we'll see like where this goes. And so they left Amakoya's realm, and they were trying to figure out like how to find the bracelet. They stopped in a couple of different port cities, and they ended up in Kugawanya, I believe is what it was called. Maybe I'm like mixing up some of the letters, but that is actually where Akande, who is like the first person POV in those like interstitial chapters, that's where a lot of his chapters take place. So we're starting to see some connections, and they just saw like the bracelet that they need to find. But before that, there was actually like some drama with Kofi's magic, because she has like this, I forgot to mention earlier, she has like this silver mark along her arm, and every time she uses the splendor, which is like the Diraja magic, it like exacerbates that mark. So she used it, and because there were like a bunch of untethers in the city, which like the untethered is like the reason why Amakoya decided to help them and like, you know, give them her support, even with the stipulation about the bracelet and everything. But So I feel a little bit more relaxed about the bracelet now, because earlier I was like, I don't understand the point of this, but now it seems like it's tying into like a Conde's point of view, and I also I feel like there's something else that's going to happen. So I'm interested in that, and I do like the book a lot more so far. I'm probably a little bit over halfway through, just like barely, but I'm excited to see like what happens, because I really don't know. We have like, there's 2 more gods to locate and like get the support of, and I'm honestly, I don't know how everything's gonna wrap up. Like, it seems like, I know we found the bracelet and we found Amakoya, but I feel like there's like a lot left and there's not enough like book left. So I'm definitely excited to see like where things go, how things play out, what Ayana Gray is going to do with the rest of the story. So I can't wait to continue reading and just see where everything takes us. But I'm gonna go get dressed and hang out with my friends, and I will check back in once I've probably gotten through part 3 of the book, and I'm very interested to see what's happening in this book, because I have no idea where we are going to go from here. Okay, so it is about 2 o'clock. I have changed, and my plans actually were pushed back a little bit, so I was able to read a little bit more, and I'm currently on page 304 of Beasts of War. That rhymed. And I don't really know like how to put my finger on it, but I feel like something about this book is just like different than the other 2. Like, it feels a little bit half-baked. Like, the plot, it just seems like things are kind of a little bit simple in a way, like less, like, I kind of just like know the direction of the plot. I know I said in the last clip like I don't really know where things are going, but I feel like now it's kind of easy to imagine like how the story is going to progress, and I feel like I enjoyed in the first 2 books not really knowing, but regardless, I still have about like a little less than 150 pages left, so I do want to see what's going to happen, but right now it's feeling like a little bit more of a 4 stars as opposed to the 5 stars that I gave the first 2 books. But we had the scene, we kind of caught up with Akande a little bit. I'm still not loving his chapters, but we'll see. I'm reaching another one right now, so we'll see how that plays out. And so we were in the magistrate's like home, I guess, because his daughter was the one that was wearing the bracelet of Amakoya, so they kind of went in and tried to steal it. It did not work out, so the whole city ended up kind of getting burst into flames because of Kofi's splendor. She doesn't really know how to control it, and they're trying to convince her like not to use it because she's making herself sick. And then they ended up trying to like make progress, and very serendipitously ran into Atuno, I think is how it is spelled, who is the god of skies, heavens, and stars, and his symbol is the heron. And so we spent time in his palace, and he kind of explained why him and his siblings have been like ignorant to the world, and how he is going to help them in their mission to stopping Feidu. So, yeah, I feel like things are a little bit easier in this book. Like, I don't really feel the stakes, even though there are, like, a ton of stakes. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like this book is not, like, I don't have the same, like, visceral reaction to it as I did with the first 2 books. I feel like I'm a little bit like, okay, like, we'll see how this progresses, but, yeah. So, I do have about 150 pages left. I think there's about 50 pages left until part 4, so we'll see how that goes. And I do want to, like, I'm just kind of imagining that we'll find the 3rd god, and then we'll find the bracelet, and then there will be a war. Like, I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to fit in the next 150 pages, but that's for Ayana Gray to figure out, not me. So right now, I'm probably going to relax a little bit before I go hang out with my friends, and then I will try to finish the rest of the book tonight, but I might finish it tomorrow morning. We shall see. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling about the book so far, and I will check back in once I have some more to recap and some more of the book to discuss. It is the next day, and I reached part 4 of Beasts of War. I'm on page 357, so I have a little bit less than 100 pages left in the book, and some important things did just go down. So I believe where I left off was after they had left Atuno's palace, and we get this chapter from Akande where he is talking to his love, Danya, and he finds out that she has a bride price and that he won't be able to pay it and everything. And then we find, we go back to our main characters with Ekon narrating, and they end up getting attacked by these beasts called swallowers that Atuno warns them of, and they get saved by this group of people who end up bringing them to Mjombo the Wise, I believe is how you say it, who Kofi and Ekon end up talking to, and Kofi ends up realizing that his name, or learning that his name is Akande, and she remembered reading about him and remembering that he is a Daraja with the same power as her. He can like create shadows and manipulate shadows. That's like his splendor, both of their splendor powers. And so she's asking him for help and everything, and then Ekon ends up getting attacked and kidnapped by his brother, and Kofi is like, he and Kofi end up having like this big altercation where they're like confronting each other, and they both say some choice words, and then Kofi ends up kind of convincing Akande after they have this heart-to-heart, and she finds out that he has Amakoya's bracelet that she has been looking for, which to me felt slightly convenient and like just easy for the plot, but I forgive it because there are like other crazy things happening with Ekon being kidnapped. So we are moving into part 4, and I just want to say, like, I love the titles of these sections in this book, and like this whole series. Like part 1 is called When the Bull Elephants Battle, It is the Bullfrogs Beneath Them Who Pay the Price, and then part 2 is called The Hunter Who Chases Two Hares Will Catch Neither, and then part 3 is entitled A Dove of the Heavens Belongs Not with the Sparrows of the Earth, and then part 4, which I just reached, is called The Earth Does Not Change Its Colors to Match the Chameleon. So all the sections in all 3 books have those like types of titles where it kind of references other like creatures and things, and I just think that's really fun and creative. And I do also love the chapter titles as well. So that's been fun, and right now where we left off, Kofi and like the rest of the crew are going on the Maidens of, I forget what the place is called, Kusanga. There are a lot of places in this book that start with K, but those like 4 lionesses that we met in an earlier chapter with Akande. So he introduces them to them, and then they're going to go try to find and save Ekon. So, not a ton of the book left, and I feel like there are still, I've been saying this a lot, I feel like there are a bunch of steps left in the story, but we shall see where things end up going from here. I'm really excited to see how this series ends. It's only like 3, oh, here's my phone. It's only about 4, so I can definitely finish this book by today. I don't think that's going to be much trouble. So right now I'm going to go have some tea and read a little bit, and I'll probably check in either once I'm halfway through part 4 or once I've finished the book. Hello, so it is like the next day, or like, I don't know. It's a day or 2 later, and yesterday morning I finished Beasts of War by Ayana Gray, and I took the day yesterday to reflect on my thoughts and feelings on the book before coming here to wrap up my ideas on the book. I rated this book 4 stars on Goodreads, but I didn't leave a review because I don't really like to leave reviews on books that I have standalone videos for, just because I feel like I'm usually able to, like, if it's a book that I just mentioned in a wrap-up, I feel like sometimes the Goodreads review can be more in-depth since it's right when I finish the book, but if I'm doing like a reading vlog or a standalone review for a book, I think that is more substantial than what I could write in a shorter Goodreads review. So I just rated it 4 stars and left my review empty so that I can really discuss in depth what I felt about this finale. So I already kind of spoiled it, but I did give this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I do just want to quickly recap what happens at the end. I think I forgot to mention in the last clip that Ekon did actually find Itache, who was the last god that they needed to find right before he got kidnapped. And then they all go back to Lycosa. Obviously, Ekon is, like, kidnapped and taken back, and he tries to have, like, a heart-to-heart with his brother and, like, convince him that, like, this is not, like, what he should be doing. And he should, like, understand Ekon's, like, side of things. And his brother is a little bit, like, blocked off, but he ends up in Lycosa. He doesn't really know what to do. He's sentenced to an execution. And Kofi and, like, the rest of the group end up in Lycosa again, and they visit the Night Zoo, which was such a great callback to book 1. We get to see a reuniting with her mother and her friend as well, who we met in book 1, and that was really nice. And they end up planning this giant distraction with all of the animals from the Night Zoo to, again, just distract from the execution to stop everything. And then there's this whole showdown with all of the gods and Fedu, and it all works out in the end, basically. I will say, though, that my worries did come to fruition a little bit. I was nervous that this book would kind of just wrap things up very quickly, and it kind of did. Like, there was just, like, 2 chapters with, like, Kofi and all of them running in to stop the execution, and then everything kind of worked out in the end. I'm still a little bit, like, confused. I feel like I need to probably reread that chapter just because I feel like I'm just, like, a little bit confused about the state of things afterward, but we did get a really cute epilogue that I really enjoyed with, like, Kofi and Ekon, and they were just kind of, like, discussing their futures, and they opened this, like, sanctuary for these animals in Akande's honor, and it's just, Akande also helps them in the end, and it was really cute. I loved the epilogue, and they kind of, like, they finally, like, acknowledged their feelings for one another, and it was really cute. I loved that. I loved their romance, so I'm super happy that it worked out for them in the end. But I did just decide to give this book a 4 out of 5 stars in the end, because I do think that it is a slightly weaker book than the first 2 installments in the series, which were easily 5 out of 5 stars, like, the second I finished them, and they were, like, gripping the entire way. I feel like Beasts of War, I sometimes had to, like, force myself to read. Not that it was, like, bad and I was, like, slugging through it, but that it was just, like, a little bit less compulsively readable, because I think I was noticing more problems with the story, and I felt like the writing style was a little bit watered down in this book. Like, it wasn't as addicting and, like, inviting or, like, gripping as the first 2 books in the series, and I think the plot was a little bit convenient at times, and, like, the real danger that happens really only happens towards the end, and then it's resolved really quickly. So I feel like this book definitely could have been, like, longer and just, like, a little bit better structured, because I felt like sometimes I was not really understanding, or understanding is the wrong word, but I was not vibing with, like, the weird, like, flow of the story. Like, it really just felt like it was going like this all the time, which is fine. I feel like that happens a lot in the first 2 books as well, but it was more like I could see the through line between things, whereas this one, it was kind of just like, okay, we're just moving from thing to thing, and then there's, like, a lot of convenience within, and then when there isn't convenience, like, in a story, or if, like, something is stopped, like when they had to leave that, the magistrate's palace or whatever, it all ended up working out in the end, because, like, what they needed there wasn't even there, and it was just, like, a fake, and then, Conde actually ended up having the bracelet, so it kind of just, like, all felt a little bit, like, easy to me, and I don't know, I think I missed, like, the heart and soul that was in the first 2 books, because I feel like this book was less about, like, Ekon and Kofi, and more about, like, the whole group, and, like, this giant story, as opposed to just, like, a character-driven fantasy with, like, some really cool mythological aspects. I don't know, I feel like I'm being a little bit nitpicky, but I feel like there was just, like, the whole book, honestly, I felt like there was something off from, like, the first 2 installments, so, yeah. Not my favorite finale ever, but I do still consider this trilogy one of my all-time favorites, even if the finale was a little bit weaker than I was hoping. But I did, like, enjoy the story as a whole. Like, I thought the plot, like, in its entirety was cool, like, finding all of the gods to try to stop Feiju, but I feel like it was a little bit, like, it bit off a little bit more than it could chew, and I feel like this honestly could have been 2 books, or just a much longer installment, because I think it just deviated a lot from what we had established in Beasts of Prey and Beasts of Ruin. But overall, I still would really recommend this trilogy. It's super magical, super fun, and it has great characters and a really immersive world. So I guess that brings this reading vlog to a close. I really enjoyed, you know, finishing out this series and seeing how everything came together, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and I would love to know your thoughts on Beasts of War and the series as a whole. Do you agree with me? Do you not? What are all of your opinions on the story? But yes, that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoy. All of my social media links are in the description box below, and I will see you soon for a new video. Bye!